In the previous discussions, we had discussed regarding these two concepts, that is end fire array and the broadside array. So here, what does the array pertain to? If you just observe what we are having n number of turns in these case, that is the helical antenna. So it is like placing the loop kind of antennas placing loop kind of antennas, or if I just specify that placing these turns one after the other will form the array structure. That is, you are having the array structure for this case. So when we consider this, and if we get a maximum along the axis of the antenna, that is the array structure, we classify it as a end fire array. So therefore, axial mode of operation for the helical antenna gives rise to an end fire array structure. So why it is termed as end fire? In end fire array, the maximum is along phi equal to 0 degrees. That is, it is along the axis of the array. So then apart from that, it is at the along the axis of the array. So and what happens in the normal mode of operation? As we specified in the normal mode of operation, the direction of maximum is in a direction perpendicular or normal to the axis. So if this is the axis, this is the direction of the normal. So along this, I am having the peak value or the maximum radiation. So and again, we observe that this is one element, this is another element, this is another element. So these all together form a array. They form an array. So when we consider this, what happens is this will give rise to n number of arrays in which I am having a maximum in a direction perpendicular to the axis of the array. So therefore, the normal mode of operation will be classified as a broadside array. So it will be having a broadside pattern. So it will be having a broadside pattern. So normal mode gives rise to broadside, whereas the axial mode gives rise to the end fire. So this is with respect to the different modes what we have observed. And here we can make another observation that here we can see that if we are having radiation in only one direction, we are not having it in any other direction. That is, I am having a peak value in this direction. I can have minor lobes or back lobe. But in this case, if you just observe, say there is only one main lobe, say it is along the phi equal to 0 degrees. So here you can see that the peak value is present only in one direction. So if we have a radiation pattern which is of this form, we classify it as unidirectional pattern. We classify it as unidirectional pattern. Now suppose if we have maximum along this direction and there is a antenna structure in which we have maximum along in the opposite direction. So such pattern we can classify as bidirectional. It is not that they should be opposite. They should be opposite. You can have patterns which are like this also. So in which in one direction I am having peak and in the other direction also I am having a peak value. So here if we have a radiation pattern in this form, then I can classify this as a bidirectional. But in this case, you can observe that there is maximum present along the axis that is at phi equal to 0 degrees. So if such kind of pattern we observe, we classify it as unidirectional pattern. And we had seen that if it is unidirectional, the range of theta changes. Theta will be in the range of 0 to pi by 2. It will be from 0 to pi by 2. This is when the pattern is unidirectional. If the pattern was to be bidirectional, then this theta value would be in the range of 0 to pi, that is 0 to 180 degrees. So this is what we can observe from axial mode. So when we are considering axial mode, what is the condition in order to obtain this maximum along the axis. So that is, if I have a helical antenna and I want to operate it in the axial mode, or I want to have a maximum along the axis of this antenna, then what is the condition I should look forward? So I should satisfy the axial length condition. So in which axial length is given by the product of n and s, where n is the number of turns and s is the separation distance between two consecutive turns. So when we consider that, it should be much lesser than the operating wavelength of the antenna. So this condition has to be satisfied. So if you satisfy this condition, you will obtain a helical antenna which will be operating in the axial mode. So now let us have a look at what are the different parameters which I can associate with this antenna. So previously we had discussed regarding half power beamwidth, directivity, gain. So all these aspects also will be holding for the antenna which is under consideration. So for the helical antenna, half power beamwidth is given by this equation, which is for the axial mode what we are looking out for. So it is 52 divided by C into square root of lambda cube divided by n into S. So this is the axial length. So where C is actually the circumference of one of the turns. So now next we have the bandwidth between the first null. So for the helical antenna, it is given by this equation, which is 115 divided by C into square root of lambda cube divided by n into S. And as we have seen for the previous antennas, even for this antenna, we can have the directivity. The directivity for this one is given by this equation, which is 15 times n into s c square divided by lambda cube. Now, at sometimes we can obtain the axial ratio, which is basically dependent on the number of turns. So this axial ratio is given by this parameter. So which is actually equal to 1 plus 1 divided by 2n. So this is the axial ratio. Lastly, the terminal resistance of the helical antenna. The terminal resistance of the helical antenna is given by RT, which is equal to 140 into C by lambda. So these are few of the parameters which are associated with the helical antenna. Now, as we discussed for normal mode of operation for the helical antenna, the maximum is in a direction normal to the axis of the helical antenna, what we are considering. And again, we can see that if I have only one direction of the peak value, I classify it as a unidirectional antenna. I classify it as a unidirectional antenna. And since we are having a peak value in a direction normal to the axis of this array, so we are considering this as an array. So for that case, what happens is this array, we can specify it as a broadside array or broadside mode of operation in this case. So therefore, we observe these are the few aspects which are pertaining to the antennas what we have discussed. So that is the helical antenna, under which we have the normal mode of operation and axial mode of operation. And these are the parameters which are associated with the helical antenna, that is half power beamwidth, beamwidth between first null, directivity, and the axial ratio and the terminal resistance. So in general, these are the equations what we'll be utilizing for identifying these parameters for the helical antenna. So only one condition what we have to check out is this parameter. If I want the axial mode of operation, this condition has to be satisfied. If it is not satisfied, then I move to the next mode of operation, that is the normal mode of operation for the helical antenna. So now let us have a look at the geometric representation of the helical antenna. So whenever we are considering the helical antenna, we'll be having a wired kind of structure which will be bent in this form to form a helix. So when this is formed and the conditions are satisfied, we will have the helical antenna which is represented over here. So in this, a few parameters already we saw what are the things. So let us have a discussion again regarding those with additional few aspects over there. So whenever we are considering a wired structure, it is we consider the diameter of this wire. So the diameter of this wire is represented by lowercase d. And we are assuming that there are n number of turns in this helical antenna, and the separation between two successive turns is given by parameter s. And d, the capital D, what is represented. So when I observe it from the front, I'll see that there is a circle. So that is the radius of one turn is given by d over here. So and sometimes what happens is they represent from this point to the next point as the length L. So in some cases they specify that the length of one turn is given by L. So these are a few specifications which are pertaining to the helical antenna, that is the geometric representation. So another parameter what we have is the alpha value, which actually gives the information pertaining to the pitch angle. So it is the angle with respect to the axis with which the wire is bent. So if I measure the angle associated with this axis with respect to the bend of this one, that bend gives rise to an angle which we call as pitch angle. It is termed as the pitch angle. So if I consider one turn, right, one turn associated with this, then we can that is if we say unroll this and try to represent it in a geometric form. So say in a triangular form, you have distance S, you have the length L, then you have the diameter. So if I try to associate all these things, so I can have a structure which is represented in this form, where one side will be C. That is, C is nothing but the circumference of the circle what we are observing. So when we observe from front, what we observe one circle. So it is like if I just traverse along this, it will be like that. So I'll be having, and the diameter of this one is D. So when we consider that, the circumference of this circle will be pi d. So if we associate that, we have at one end we'll be having the circumference. At the other end, I'll be having the separation between the two turns. Separation between the two turns. So if I start from here and traverse along this and I straighten it, so the length of this one will be given by the circumference of the circle. And the other separation, that is, these are the 2 points which are separating the two say array parameters or the terms, successive terms, so which is given by yes. So when I stretch this out, I'll be having these two parameters which are associated. So that is, I'll be having C and S which are associated. So now if I try to measure these two point distances, we'll be having it equal to, from the Pythagoras theorem, that is a square root of a square plus c square. So that is what we will be having. So that is, I'm trying to identify the overall length of one turn. So it is like estimating the overall length of one turn. So if I consider from this point to this point, it is the length. So if I stretch it out, it will be L. So at one end, if I try to measure, if I observe from one end, I'll be observing a circle of diameter D. So one end I'll be having the circle with the diameter D and circumference C, and at the other point I'll be having the distance between two successive turns, which is given by S. So therefore, the overall length of one turn, overall length. So from this point to this point, when I consider, it will be equal to square root of S square plus C square. This is what I'll be having with respect to this parameter. And if I consider the pitch angle, if I consider the pitch angle, so if I just happen to measure the pitch angle, right, at any point, if I just measure, the angle will be alpha. The pitch angle will be alpha. So if I consider that, I can have the pitch angle represented in terms of these parameters. In terms of these parameters. So therefore we have tan alpha, which is given by opposite upon adjacent, which is equal to S by C. Therefore alpha can be represented in terms of S and C by taking the tan inverse of S by C. So now the total length of the helical antenna, which is having a spacing of S between two successive terms, that is one parameter length we are considering. So and if the circumference of the circle what we are observing is C, then it is given by L is equal to square root of S square plus C square. That is from this triangle what we can observe. So these are a few things pertaining to the helical antenna and its geometric representation. Now, few of the features what we can observe for the helical antenna is helical antenna finds its use in a very high frequency band and the ultra high frequency bands. So in this case, the bands again, when we consider, it will be in the range, it will be less than the 3 gigahertz band. So these are the two bands in which it can be utilized. So it generally finds its application in these two bands of communication. Then apart from this, axial mode of operation is majoritarily used in many of the applications. Even you can go for the say line of sight communication when you want to observe, you can go for the other mode of operation also, but axial mode finds its use in majority of the applications. Now what happens is we observe polarization when the waves are being transmitted. So if I am an observer, who is standing at this point and observing the waves, so what happens is I'll be observing a polarization of the waves, that is the microwave waves, in say circular polarization form. So that is suppose if you're seeing a sign representation. So if I'm seeing a sign representation, so this is how it appears. But if I stand over here and observe this, it will appear as though it is moving up and down, So this is nothing but polarization. The how this movement is happening, when you observe it from this point, it is the polarization of this wave. So in this case, it is moving only in up and down direction, which is forming a linear shape. So it is actually a linear polarization. Now, if you imagine the same thing, say if you have signed this thing, but instead of just moving up and down, it is moving even in the side waves. So it is moving up and down also, and it is moving in the sideways also. But when it is moving, what happens is if you stand at one position and observe this wave, so what happens is it might appear as though it is moving in circle in this form. So therefore, this kind of antenna gives rise to circular polarization. It gives rise to the circular polarization. That is when I stand and observe the waves, it appears, if I consider one point and if I observe, it will be like it will be moving in a circle fashion. So that is how it will be moving. So that is, it gives rise to circular polarization. And directivity, when we consider for the simple constructions of the helical antenna, we can attain very high directivity for this antenna. So having a high directivity is a good parameter. Having a directivity is a good parameter over there. Then applications, if we just observe, we see it being used in some space communication. Say if you want to go for satellite communications, also they utilize the array structure of these helical antennas. So, and apart from that, when we want to communicate on the ground, we can make use of helical antennas. That is the array of helical antennas in which we look to transmit the microwaves with the help of the ionosphere. So as I in previous session also I discussed regarding this. So Earth's surface is curved. So suppose one antenna is over here and another antenna is over here. So when we observe, I cannot have a line of sight communication between them. There is some limitation because of the horizon what we observe. So in order to increase this distance of communication, so if I want to communicate directly, this is the distance what we have. Suppose if there is another antenna over here, I cannot have the line of sight communication because of the presence of the earth which we observe over here. That is the curvature. So in order to achieve larger distances, what is done is they make use of the ionosphere, which is a layer of atmosphere in the above the earth. So in this one, what is done is the wave is transmitted with the help of the ionosphere. And in this way, what happens is it reaches a longer distance. It reaches a longer distance. So in such kind of communications, we can look forward for using the array of helical antennas. So these are a few aspects wherein we can look forward for utilization of the helical antennas. So and in few communications, if you require circular polarization, so you can make use of helical antennas in those cases. So now let us have a look at a few of the problems pertaining to helical antenna. So before going into that, let us have a brief look regarding the formulas what we have discussed. So we saw that the directivity is given by 15 n into s c square divided by lambda cube, and y is specified as GD max. So if you just remember the equation with respect to gain, G is equal to K into D. Now gain will be equal to directivity only if efficiency is 1. That is, system is 100% efficient. Then only you will be able to achieve G equal to D. And this value is nothing but the maximum value of the gain. So therefore, sometimes they are representing it in this form. So the maximum gain, which is specified as GD max, is equal to nothing but the directivity of the antenna. So which we term as directive gain. So this is obtained when K is equal to 1. That is the efficiency factor is equal to 1. So next we have half power beamwidth, which is given by 52 by C square root of lambda cube divided by S. The bandwidth between first null is given by 115 divided by C into square root of lambda cube divided by NS. The axial ratio of the helical antenna is given by 1 plus 1 by 2 times N, and the terminal resistance is 140 into C by lambda. So now let us have a look at a problem which is presented over here. So we have a right-handed monofilar helical antenna. So we have a helical antenna which is present over here, which has 10 turns. So N is equal to 10, 100 millimeter diameter and 70 mm turn spacing. So this turn spacing is S over here, and 100 mm diameter is the capital D what they are specifying. It is not the diameter of the wire, it's the diameter of the helical antenna. Calculate and sketch far field pattern at f is equal to 1 gigahertz, and also determine the half power beamwidth between first null, gain and the axial ratio. So this is what you have to look out for.